Hello. Are we on? The temptation to say, are we on the internet is overwhelming, but I think that's copyrighted to someone else. Critical role, I believe. But I do like the idea of having a catchphrase. Are we on? Is it on? Is it on yet? Hmm. But the main question is, do you have your hobby implements with you? Do you have a model? Do you have something that you're going to be working on? Because that is why we do these streams. One, for my own entertainment, but two, to make sure that you guys also battle your backlogs. So, what is everybody going to be working on this evening? Do we have any particular things that we're working towards? Do we have any tournaments or anything like that? Or are people just doing it for the fun? I myself have the choice. As before, I have the option of my Emperor model. So I've got the Emperor versus Horse as a little diorama. Need to work on that. I have the continuation of my Lord of the Rings from last week. So I've got the next set of models. We finished about 8 models. Nope, we finished 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 models from last time. Although there are still plenty more. And then finally, I've got my Guild Ball team. Final 7 models of the Undead Army. 132 finished. That's pretty impressive. The question is what is a percentage of that is of your backlog? That'd be something that's nice to know. I'd also like to say a quick thank you to Carl from Carl Makes Things. You can check out his channel in the description below. And Sergey from MiniQuest for giving me a hand, helping me get this all set up, as well as Matt from Geek Pride. And without further ado, let me show you something new. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the autofocus. Look, I'm not just a white ghost. I actually have color. And if I ever manage to get the white balancing, which I did work on quite a bit, yeah, you can sort of see my skin tone. But if I could get the white balancing, I'll even be able to hold up a model and actually it should autofocus. Well, it's not perfect, but it was only a £40 camera reduced down to £20. That's not bad. I mean, it's a million times better than it was last week. I think that's definitely a win. Sod all from the backlog. Yeah, I feel like that too. I was up tidying the attic actually last weekend, and so much stuff still needing done up there. Hello, Carl. There we go. The man himself. I was just thanking you. I don't know if you just missed it. Thank you again for all your help. I feel like I'm feeling like almost a bit more of a professional this week. Although what I didn't manage to is I wanted to have underneath my face what here. I did want to have like what the topic of conversation was. I didn't quite manage to get that working. Everything kept going out of whack. However, it's much better this week as before. I think I'm going to go with more of the Lord of the Rings stuff, unless people have a particular vote. And I can fire up a little poll. Let's see. So, what have we got? We've got what should I paint? And then, what should I paint? That is exactly the same typo I made last week. So we got Lord of the Rings. We have 30k diorama, and then one more was our guild ball. Because I'm trying not to get distracted. As tempting as it is to keep flicking between topics, it would be, I suppose, better if I stuck at one. Let's get rid of that mouse. Don't need that. So we've got Horse Lupercal. We have Guild Ball. And then finally we have Lord of the Rings. Well, I'm hoping people vote for Lord of the Rings because that's what I really want to keep working on. Oh, it's Lord of the Rings so far. That's a good sign. Good sign. Because as soon as I've got these all done, I plan on having a little game, a little playthrough and see how it's done. And I'm trying to paint them with nothing but dry brushing, which, you know what? Pretty happy with how it was going. It's going pretty well. Got our little, all 6 humans painted slightly different. We have our Warg. Got the 2 wargs all dry brushed up. Do you know what? That's not crazily bad autofocus. That's not bad. And then we had the ring wraiths, who were decidedly cheated because they were right at the very, very end. Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's what I vote for as well. So I'm okay with that. Not going to get any arguments for me. What is everyone else working on? Carl, what are you working on at the moment? Because to watch this stream, you got to be working on something. I'm almost like a terrible teacher. You would think I would have enough of telling students what to do during my actual working day, but no, here I am. I'm going to keep checking on you. We've got Lord of the Rings. I've also got in the cupboard, actually, I'm currently building up the actual Primarch models. I actually painted this one before. Not this exact, but the official model. So I'm quite looking forward to painting the official model again. I got in trouble because I said it was the original colour scheme I did, but it wasn't the original colour scheme. It was the I did the horse colours, these sort of turquoisey stuff. I'm just vegetating in peace. Shocking, shocking. Right, fantastic. Lord of the Rings wins. That works for me. Let's see. What do we have? We have a bunch of sneaks. I think getting anything to do with mass production done is always a good start. Let's get all these down. Heroes, I'm sorry, you're the fun stuff. You're getting kicked as a reward. What we got? Should be a couple of sneaks. I'm going to guess 6. That sounds like a good number to me. And if it's not, well, I'll have to work that out later. Hello, Chili Dan. Goody goody, some tips. Oh, I don't know if you'll be getting any tips. I mean, I can give you tips. Let's see. So we've got 6 of these guys to go. Right, this week's topic of conversation is game mechanics. What game mechanics you've played, what ones you like, whether it's in a miniature game or a board game. That is what I'm interested in. What game mechanics you've seen that you wish were more prevalent. This is why, folks, you should always put your brushes back in the same place that you left them, because I don't remember which brushes I was using. I found the paints, just not the brushes. Let's go with, there you go, that's a dry brush. I mean, anything's a dry brush if you try hard enough. There's a pack that Army Painter does, and you basically get 3 of them for $9.99. And I always end up using those. My painting skills are rusty as F. It doesn't stop you doing it. I want you to be painting something, Dan. Come on. Get some models out. Get something building. Get something painting. You'll feel better for it. That is the aim of the game. Right, what do I fancy for these goblins? Well, I mean, it'd be rude not to paint them green, wouldn't it? It would be rude. Although, do you see green goblins? I can't remember what colour the goblins are in The Hobbit. Did anyone watch The Hobbit recently? That classic triad. I mean, the ones from Goblin Town are kind of like creamy. That's how I did my humans. So they're going to have to be a different colour. So let's get some greens on the go. My sarcastically large box. I know, I need my Terraton team to paint. Oh, they're grey models. Mantic Miniatures Dreadball. Kind of dirty rather than green. I think Spider-Man has a green goblin. True. Well, if someone can put a link in, use Agriston. Oh, for goblins just in general, or for Lord of the Rings goblins? If anyone could put a picture, link to a picture from the Hobbit goblins, you can change my mind. But right now, I'm reaching for green. You're going to see a travesty unfold if someone can't prove to me that they're a different colour. All goblins. Oh, okay. Has anyone used, just whilst we're talking about Agros, has anyone used Agrax? No, Agrax is the wash. You know the crackle paint the Games Workshop does? Has anyone used that on miniatures? I think that could work quite well. Like imagine a Chaos Dwarf and you paint it like fire and it comes through. Token says they were swarthy. So maybe they are meant to be cream. Hmm. Do I go with cream goblins? Hmm. I was tempted with German uniform and olive drab. Again, notice how all my paints are named after World War II. That's because it's a Vallejo set from World War II. Swarthy goblins. Okay, fine. I will give this a quick Google. Let's have a look. Swarthy goblins. Um, the Hobbit goblins. Oh, see, they're all based off of the Hobbit movie. It's kind of hard to tell in that light. He might be green. He might be grey. Grey green? Did I paint grey green last week? Oh, I didn't. Hmm. Okay, let's go with grey green then. Grey green. So I'm gonna go. Oh, it was the troll. Actually, that's a great idea. I should have just done the same colours as the troll. It would almost have looked intentional. Let's see. Let's get ourselves. Except this time instead of grey to green, I'm gonna go green to grey. Another World War II colour. I'm gonna go with field grey World War II. That'll do me. Oh, but they're kind of pale skinned and filthy. Well, a wash will solve all sins. I was watching a video actually, a review, just shaking the paint there, and it was a review of the Green Stuff World paint shaker. It basically sticks on the end and it just jiggles back and forward. Has anyone tried that? I have to say, it did look like pretty good, but I couldn't help but thinking, can I not stick that on the back of my drill? Is that not a thing? Can I not spin it on my drill? Oh yeah, that'll do. That'll do nicely. Maybe do a cream highlight over the top. We will see. We will see. So, game mechanics. I was thinking about it. It's not really a game mechanic, but one of my favorite things in games is actually the zombie side, sort of horde mechanic. If you've not played Zombicide, imagine The Walking Dead, but a board game, but not the board game by Mantic. Different board game by different people. Cool many or not. And whenever you do something, there are zombies that get spawned, and there are several spawn points around the board. And the way they all move together always means they end up as massive, massive clusters of zombies. And I don't know many other games where you just kill so many things. Like your kill counter can easily be 100+ zombies. Insert here the clip from Wolf of Wall Street where he's like, "Those are rookie numbers. You gotta get those numbers higher." That's definitely one of my favorite. Is that a game mechanic? I don't know if it's a game mechanic or not, but it's definitely one of my favorite things from games. It's a feature that I very much enjoy. The only thing about that game was I played it to death for years, and then it takes up a lot of room. And we'll say collector rather than hoarder. Being the collector that I am, I want to own every single item of a game if it comes out. Absolutely everything. Did you say you guys are completionists? Do you have to have absolutely everything for a game? Are you okay taking or leaving it? I go so far as if there's a Kickstarter and I can't actually get hold of some of the stuff, I'll be like, oh, what's the point in even buying the game? I think it's supposed to dice mechanics on Dreadball when it works, how the game goes crazy. I agree, yes. So in a lot of the Mantic games, if you roll, sometimes the system's with D6s, sometimes it with D8s, um, but if you roll the highest value, it will explode. So you get to roll another dice, another dice, another dice, which has led to the hilarious scenario of where you have like a big giant guy and a tiny little goblin, and the goblin punches the giant's head off, which is just great. Is the game competitive? I would say so. Although then I would also sulk about the fact that I lost the first online World Cup of it when I rolled really, really badly. Never played Zombicide. There's a rule in Zombicide for exploding dice. So when you roll the dice, you get to roll more and you get to roll more and you get to roll more. Or there's also a rule where you can basically spending too much time on a single goblin. Come on, Sam, pick up the pace. Where you can remove two models for every one that you kill. So you end up doing this really cool cascading deaths. It's definitely worth a go. If you can find someone that has it, rather than necessarily buying it yourself, because it works really well with all the expansions. There's something really fun about having loads and loads of the models. The games I played recently, the Song of Ice and Fire tabletop game has mechanics I liked. The politics board and the objectives having fun in games. Yeah, I like the Game of Thrones game as well. I play it with Matt, who does the podcast. Play it with him, or at least we used to do it pretty regularly. Although I'm not saying that he went in a bit of a huff after the Greyjoys kept beating his wolves, but he definitely thought the Starks were underpowered. Political board, for anyone that hasn't played, basically you have you take turns, so every unit is its own activation, but you also have 1 to 4 of these. Basically, you've got the players that aren't fighters, so Tyrion, Sansa, etc., and they're on a separate board, and that separate board has actions that you can then perform. So if you claim the extra attack action, then you get to make an extra attack. If you claim the board that gives you extra move, you get to make an extra move, and it lets your units be a little bit more unpredictable. And that in itself is a game because it's like if you wait too long, your opponent might get both of the extra activations that you maybe wanted. And once they've taken it, it's blocked. And having them does things. So if you play a character who, if you've got the swords token, they might do extra attack or they might get to do something because your opponent's doing something. Absolutely agree. That's a good game mechanic. Definitely seen ones similar to it where in board games especially you'll have a character and if the character's in a particular room you maybe get an extra action. However, it is one of the few times I've seen it in, shall we say, a war game. Not sure if I know any other games that use that sort of technique. Exploding dice are always fun. Exploding dice are a big part of the EZD6 RPG system I've been playing with recently. It's a lot of fun. Ah, nice. The exploding dice system is actually one that I enjoyed so much that it's one that I would include in a game that I would make. I'm actually wanting to do a video. I'm waiting for some models to arrive from Loot Box, I believe they're called. So you can back them and then you get the STL files. So I bought them and sent them to a printer, and he's printing off a whole bunch of gladiators for me. Combining that with one of my favorite model ranges just ever, which is called Arena Rex. If you've never seen Arena Rex, you're missing out. They are fantastic models. And I plan on using those in conjunction with things like the exploding dice roll to actually make my own game. So yeah, at some point, be prepared to receive a Kickstarter link for that. Yeah, I would want the models and whatnot. I like agnostic games, but trying to convince other people to get into agnostic games is a lot more difficult. I guess if some of you play RPGs, then agnostic games aren't that weird because RPGs don't really have official models per se, do they? Nice, need any playtesters. Now, I've changed the latency of this, so it should be a lot more your chat comes in as I'm talking. So I'm hoping that you're asking me if I need playtesters. Yes, yes, I absolutely do. Unless you're talking about Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds, did they do the dinosaur one? So there are like lasers and whatnot, but one of the games or even the dinosaurs have lasers. I could be completely misremembering that. Sharks with lasers. I like Gladiator, so I'd definitely give that a go. Nice. I have just a crazy number of just models that could be used with it. I've got things like hoplites for the Greeks. I've got things like there's a Spartan Blood Bowl team made by Traxi Factory, Taraxel Factory. There's some really nice Blood Bowl teams if you're ever looking for a Blood Bowl team. Traxi. Dan, Carl, have you got something to do for your hobby now? Remember, this is a hobby stream. I don't know if James is still here. I saw you pop up. I don't know if you told us what you were hobbying on. If you're in a place to do so, get hobby stuff, build some models, plan some armies, paint some stuff, do something towards the hobby. That's what this hobby stream's for. Yeah, arena games are fun. Fantastic. RE, many agnostic games. Have you checked out the Wield and the Turnip? I have not. I don't know what Wield and the Turnip 28 is. Is it a war game where you use vegetables? Finally, the carrots have had enough. They will put the legumes down. For many years, the root versus the legume has waged. I cannot say I've ever played a war game where you you use vegetables. I have played a war game where it's snowmen. Oh, what was it? It was snowmen versus. I want to say Christmas trees, but I don't think it was Christmas trees. I can't remember off the top of my head. Old olive drab going on now. We like the dark. Dark for dark business. And there are many hours before dawn. I always remember that from the Lord of the Rings audiobooks. But we're not talking about audiobooks. Audiobooks was last week's topic. This week it's game mechanics. Fairly hard to get people to play Thud and Blunder with me, but it's like you say, as soon as they find out they are not official miniatures, it's weird though, isn't it? We already own enough miniatures to sink entire battleships. You know, everyone hoards miniatures like there's no tomorrow. So why would they not want to use some of those? I don't know if you've played the game. There's a game I really like by Mythic called Mythic Pantheon. I say this like I don't know who you are. I do know who you are. You do have it. I always think that the Mythic Pantheon models never get used enough. I would love to run them more regularly. It's one of the reasons I've always been tempted to get more into D&D, just so I can use all my god minis from Mythic games. If you've never checked out Mythic Pantheon, if you have no impulse control, don't check it out. If you got impulse control, check it out. The models are glorious. They've now made a Norse pantheon, and they are working on an Egyptian one. Thankfully, it's only a trilogy. Funnily enough, a trilogy similar to that of, if you've played Rising Sun and Ankh, Rising Sun, Ankh, and Blood Rage. That's another game with loads of really, really great miniatures, which would be good to use in games. My mate wrote Pinnacle and now has his own company, Triple Ace Games. That's cool. Both are war games. Oh, they're two different board games. Wheels is more grimdark. Turnip 28 is kind of Napoleonics, but everyone is partially fungus. Did you ever hear Napoleon? He was a fungi. I do like weird war. It's always fun. Matt is thinking of selling his Reichbusters, or he already has sold it, and that's Weird War, sort of Germany, but World War II with a twist. Let's do that silver. Let's not dry brush them with silver. That would be weird. Aren't I glad to get a game at one of our games days? The winners got bags of gold coins. What was the Gladiator game that you were playing? That does sound good. Bags of chocolate coins. I mean, real coins are good and all, but who doesn't enjoy good old plastic? A good old chocolate coin. All right, come on, you. Lighten yourself back up. We want to see that definition. What do you think? Can I get this done in the first 15 minutes? No, I definitely can't. It's nearly been half an hour. Well, so much for speed painting, Sam. One of the reasons, in my opinion, that Games Workshop trained people to use only official models. To get people out of the habit of using whatever models they like. Definitely been in trouble with that before. You go in with a model from a different game system, and they're absolutely furious. Like, no. I often wonder as well, is that why people won't try other games? Because they, spent so much on Games Workshop games. They're like, oh, I can't afford to play other game systems. And people like Mantic, you're more than welcome to. You can even bring your Games Workshop stuff to official Mantic tournaments if you want to. You just don't get the bonus points for having a fully painted Mantic army, which is fair. Perfectly fair. I've seen those models. They're really good looking. Way back when in the 90s, we had no problem playing with anything. Yeah. I remember you used to go into Games Workshop shops and you would ask them about terrain, and then they would, sometimes even physically take you to like a shop and say, you should get this, you should get this foam board, you should get this super glue, you should get this PVA, and be like, here, start making something, and I'll give you a hand whenever it's quiet. Definitely something that changed. But it is there to make money. Game mechanics, though. So we've had Exploding Dice, we've had Horde mechanics. What other mechanics in games do you absolutely love? The Game of Thrones game, the board, that is, excuse me. Oh, and of course we've got the board as well. We do like the board. But the Game of Thrones board game has like a threat meter, which is always fun. And it's always sneaking up. And when it gets to the maximum threat, basically there's a wildling invasion. And everyone sort of suffers from it, which is fun as well. I do like things like that, like the Great Levelers. There's one extreme example of that in the Walking Dead Risk, which I would say is one of the best Risk games. Risk can go on for days, years, whatever. And basically what it has is to prevent you from just, putting all your troops at like a choke point to your country. It does zombie invasions throughout the board. So if you don't evenly spread your forces, what you'll very quickly end up with is you get invaded by zombies, and because you've got no troops in the middle zones, they just end up swamping your entire internals, and so you lose up all your bonuses. It also has in the second half of the deck an overrun card, which ends the game. So you have to either totally win by domination or be the sort of healthiest one when that card gets brought out, because basically everyone loses at that point, which I like. I like the idea of like having a, I don't know if it would be a natural end point to a game, but I like having that countdown. I like a turn counter, although, a turn counter that involves everyone getting eaten by zombies is even better. EM4's Gladiator rules. Really simple rules, and it comes out every so often. How can I note this down? Let's put this in my old Word document. Dunk, new document. That's gone to my work document. That's not what I want. My boss will be like, what? What is this video game thing? What is this nonsense? EM4 Gladiator. I'll check that out. Thank you very much. Really simple rules. Do you know what? I think it's incredibly hard to make a game that has really basic, simple rules that are good, but also has the ability to expand into a more complicated game that is also just as good. I think that is very hard to achieve. Because you've got games like what's it called? They always have Mears miniatures. Mears miniatures are really nice miniatures. They do things like you've got the Romans sort of mixed with, you know, Colosseum, like statues, like the Rhodes statue, and then they also got things like sphinxes. They've also got, auxiliary camel warriors, and I don't mean warriors own camels. I mean the camels are the warriors and they walk upright. But they're a very, very good system. But the basic system itself is just so complicated it puts people off. So I think if a game can walk that line between being good in the basic and good in the advanced, it's absolutely incredible. Problem is, if the basic's too good, you don't want to play the advanced. Champions of Midgard's one of my, if not my favorite board game. And I never want to play the advanced rules because I think the instruction games rules are fantastic, even though I'm told all the time that the Valhalla expansion is the only thing that saves a bad game. I mean, there's one-page rules which encourages people to throw everything on the table. Good rule set too. It was Adam. It was Tabletop Minions that recently did a video on that, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know what? I'm going to go off base. I'm going crazy. I'm grabbing the other models because I poured out way too much silver. So I'm going to quickly do silver on all the remaining models, I think. All this. So many models. I'll shove them out of the way so only I have to deal with them. So you don't have to stare at an absolute mountain of models. I do like batch beating. I think batch beating works, but I don't know if you could do it to an entire army all at the same time. I remember doing 100 night goblins once, and it was just soul destroying just watching one goblin at a time be finished. But no, I haven't tried one-page rules. I remember watching like I said, a video from Uncle Atom, Tabletop Minions. One good game mechanic from Warhammer 40k was the way vehicle damage was handled. Each vehicle had a table on which damage effects were rolled. Like explosions out of control, stuff like that. Yeah, it didn't. You had that later than second edition, didn't you? I feel like my edition, if you were to have a my edition, would be third edition. There you go, folks. Always make sure that your charger is plugged into itself, not just into the wall. Because if it's not plugged into the actual charging unit, you're not going to get any power at all. Where were we? Sorry. Oh yeah, so it was the old exploding rule. I swear that was in my edition to put air quotes on it was I feel like it was third. The one with the black Templars on the front cover that Ben Comments actually did an awesome piece on recently where he did it coming out of a picture frame, which has got to be one of my favourite things I've seen in the hobby in a long time. If anyone knows what edition I'm describing, do let me know, because I don't remember. But yes, the randomness of it was always good. There was nothing more satisfying than your friend's Land Raider rolling that beautiful, beautiful six on that chance penetrating hit and it going boom. I believe 30k might use sort of those rules. Could be completely wrong though. I just found my missing paintbrush behind my ear. It's a good way of doing it. Most ridiculous thing I've ever done in an exam was I had my paintbrush. Sorry, not my paintbrush. I didn't have a paintbrush in the exam. My pen, and when I reached up, I no longer had my pen. So I looked around angrily, even though I was in an exam. Got out another pen. Little while later, same thing happened. Couldn't find my pen. Started evilly glaring around, trying to work out who keeps nicking my pens. Got a third pen out. Using that pen, lean back in my chair to have a think. Try and put the pen behind my ear. Find a pen. Reach up to my other ear. Find another pen. Yeah, when you're when you're distracted, it's pretty easy to do daft stuff like that. So I totally believe you that your paintbrush was missing behind there. Yeah, Uncle Adam did a video on it. The link will show the arena I made. I don't think a link has come through. I'm very sorry. Could you put a space in the middle of the URL and then we can just copy and paste it and take it that way? I think it might have automatically deleted it. I haven't put any suppression on that. Hello, Ben. Are you hobbying with us? Have you got something out to work on? That's what we're doing here. We're battling the backlog, getting these miniatures done, making yourself feel better. And if you're trying to do any of those challenges, where you have to paint models before you buy them, it is, of course, getting you towards that as well. If any of you haven't seen the latest video from 8 Rising, James over 8 Rising, you should definitely check it out. He did a video on doing edge highlighting with just pens. And he was so convincing in it, I actually picked up the pens and they arrived this morning. I mean, I could get them out and have a go on these models, I guess. There's not really that many edges to, not like vehicle highlights. Although in retrospect, I've got pens to do edge highlighting, but I've got Tau, which basically don't have edges, all round curves. Possibly, yeah, I think they dropped it in 4th. Ben says yes. Hopefully in response to Carl's comment. We can confirm about it. God, was it 4th? What are we on now? 9th, 10th? But yes, I agree. I like it when things go boom unexpectedly. That's always a satisfying conclusion. That's why orcs are so good, because they're ridiculous rules like their exploding gun that will blow up and teleport squigs inside of you. The more ridiculous, the absolute better. And so does Dreadnought go berserk and blast the heck out of their own side with all his layers. I assume the Dreadnoughts had that. Well, they must have. You said they have. I remember the Dreadnoughts going haywire. I remember the Blood Angels one. It had something where it might eat its own guys. Hopefully that works. Why is it not showing up? Hopefully it's showing up for other people. If not, I might grab it and put it in the description later. Yeah, you did. That's so cool. The big red button in Gorka Morka. I've got upstairs in the attic when I was tidying at the weekend. I found a whole bunch of my old boxed games. Unfortunately, a lot of the pieces are missing, but I really want to do a revival video, especially for Space Crusade. I actually managed to pick up Space Crusade at a hilarious price, £5, but it was completely missing every model. So it's got all the components, but not a single model. And the video I would really quite like to do is going and buying and painting all new models. So like replace the Necron Warriors with Necron Warriors, replace the Tyranids with the Tyranids from Space Crusade, because I really like the ones from Space Crusade, not the old Space Crusade, the one that came with all the Tyranids on unique bases. Really, really enjoyed the models on that, where they have like their own bits of terrain. That worked great in Space Crusade. There's such a variety. Remember they had the old original Necrons with the big sword things. Ah, yeah. I don't know why I don't remember Dreadnoughts. For some reason, because they don't, in modern copies of 40k, they don't have armor values anymore, do they? They've got like strength and toughness. Whereas before, Dreadnoughts were vehicles. I guess that's because of how they changed. Remember the old metal ones, which if you threw at someone would cause serious bodily harm? How times have changed. You can't throw your models at people these days. Right, on to some greens and browns. That looks exactly the same colour as the skin tone. Well, we'll highlight it. We'll pretend that I'm doing a mother colour. That's my excuse as to why the two colours look pretty similar at the moment. BS it until you make it. That's the motto. Taking care of business. I bought music as well for the stream, but I couldn't get it working. I couldn't work out how. Maybe for next time I will work out how to do. Got Apple Music. Then you got to work out which ones are. I wonder if on Apple Music there's playlists where they're royalty free. Either that or through the entire music, I would have to either sing along so badly that it wouldn't get picked up by the YouTube auto detect. One of my videos, I did just a little clip, just a teeny little clip of music from another thing, and it immediately got flagged when I tried to upload the video. So I sung badly over the top of it. I sang so badly, the YouTube auto detect couldn't actually work it out. When I ran the school club, one of the kids hit it, went straight across the table and off the other end. What was this? Big red button. Do you mean literally there was a button on one of the models that you were supposed to push to shoot stuff? If so, that's hilarious. Dang. So, what other game mechanics do we have that people enjoy? I definitely prefer hexes. In an ideal world, true hexes, but I'll take squares, like in Mantic's Dead Zone. It just takes up all the stress. I think measuring tapes are just bad. I think of all the movement types or range types or anything, I don't like measuring tapes. You're as soon as you get something with any kind of angle and elevation, people are going to argue about it, and I think it just ruins games. I would much rather it with squares or hexes. For the gladiator game I want to make, it would definitely be hexes, like in Dreadball, I guess. The ability to very clearly distinguish whether something's in the front, in the rear, etc. I think just works better than measuring tapes. That's my opinion on measuring tapes. What does everyone else think? Or what does everyone prefer? No, let's have poll number 2. That's what we call this. Winner, and let's have it as measuring tape, and we're going to have that versus hexes slash squares. Big Round Run was a rule system that it went faster. Being an orc meant that they didn't press it once, so if you pressed it in the game, you had to roll a dice, and if you kept pressing it, you had to keep rolling. That's great! No! Do you know what? I absolutely loved in Old Hammer where you had to guess the cannonballs. I thought that was a great mechanic. I know some people didn't love it and they were like, oh, it's more RNG. Yeah. So guessing where the cannonball goes and hoping that you hit it, or worse, guessing where it goes and then doing a magic spell or a cannonball and shooting it straight into your own people. Magnificent. But I've got a feeling if you liked, things like the great big red button, that would suggest to me that you also like chaos, and probably aren't someone that necessarily worries about competitively. Where are we falling? Hex slash squares at 67% of the vote. I don't know if you guys can see the voting percentages as it goes through. I haven't seen a massive number of live streams on YouTube actually. I know a lot of people do it on Twitch. On Twitch, they have this mechanic where you can gamble almost. So when a vote goes up, you can put forward bits. You earn bits just by watching streams and stuff like that. And if you're on the winning side, they split the bits out amongst you. And obviously, the losing side don't get their bits back. That's pretty cool. Arena has squares, as I didn't want to try and make hexagons. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, so you made the entire arena out of blue foam. Wow, nice. So shout, Stephen, I said I was going to put your blog in the description of the previous video, but a comment never showed up. But if you leave a comment in this video or the last one with a link, I will put it in the description so people can find your blog. I don't like grids in my terrain. Yep, that's fair. I guess with things like Dead Zone, what you've got is either little bits of scatter terrain that you just sort of dump around the squares, or the terrain is literally square. And I can see how that would get on people's nerves. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I was thinking I was probably wouldn't put like hexes on the terrain of it. It'd be like bridges and whatnot. But then if you don't put it in the shape of it, then immediately you've got the same argument as before, don't you? Where people are saying, well, the terrain's over this square or the terrain's over this square. That is definitely something to think about. Thank you. Then you got to think scale as well. What scale should you do the game in? Got to choose something like 48 mil so it doesn't fit any of the other scales that people already have. That's what they decided to do with MCP, isn't it? I'm just going to use this brown up on their legs, I think. It's fine. The splodges of paint is absolutely fine. Speaking of splodges of paint, I saw a video that made me laugh. It's a guy talking about pro painting, and he's an absolutely amazing videographer. So all the shots are really creamy, but everyone's then confused about the actual painting. They're like, "You're good at videography, but you're bad at painting. What gives?" And so he made this troll video about pro painting, and it was very funny. Whoa! Oh, I smell some saltiness. Wah, wah. To be good at 40k, you just need to buy the latest game. I think I know someone over at Vanguard Tactics that would very much object to that statement. Apparently, he never ever changes army. He'll stick with the same army until he wins a tournament or something with it to prove a point. Although, then again, I had Tau all through the points where they were bad, and now they come back around to being pretty good. Don't know if they're still good. I'm the person who bought 3 Storm Surges, and over several years that is, normally pre-owned. And everyone laughed at me. Well, who's laughing now? Now they're worth the money. It's things like Troll Trader. See if you do buy and sell Games Workshop stuff, or just, well, yeah, mainly Games Workshop. I don't know if anyone does that kind of level of turnover of books and rules. If you keep hold of any models long enough, they will come back around to being powerful and they'll suddenly be worth more money. Just choose your price, stick with your guns, and wait until it comes out. Nice. I just need something for the loincloths. I think if you're a modelist, I think the orcs are a really good army to go in 40k. I think one of my favourite models that my little brother has, he's got orcs, is a looted Carnifex. So it's got like a little remote control in it and its arms. Hello, Mini Quest! Mr. 1000. I can't remember if we said this in the last stream. I feel like we might have. It both seems like just a short moment ago that you got 1,000. I've been telling everyone off as they join, you should be doing hobbying. Do tell us what it is you're hobbying with. Get your hobbying stuff out. Build some models, clean some models, paint some models, base some models. Don't care what you do, but we're here to battle the backlog. So we're going to keep on working. Oh, we'll have another congratulations anyway. It was well earned. Talk about someone who doesn't follow the YouTube meta. Yeah, these should be Space Marines. These really should be Space Marines. We're talking board game mechanics. Ah, fantastic. I will put a link in the description. Boggenwald. Now, if I go over there, am I going to find how to build a bog? If not, I'll be very disappointed. I'm not saying I'll bring a false advertising against you, but that'd be like me running a channel called The Basic Brush and not be using the most basic brushes you can buy. We are talking game mechanics that we particularly enjoy. We've got exploding dice, we've got hexes. Oh, I need to stop that vote. Got that still running. Donk. Well, I think based on that, that's it. You heard it, game developers. From now on, all games should be made with hexes. Measuring tapes are now banned. The people have spoken. What, you're saying that we shouldn't decide an important thing by 60-40%? I mean, that's pretty significant. Don't know what you're talking about. How do we feel about energy mechanics? So this you will find in War Machine Hordes. You will find it in Guild Ball. You'll find it in Moonstone, but Moonstones work slightly differently because instead of you assigning from a general pool, everyone has energy. Do you? No, 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 you don't. No, you don't. They have energy, and then you can assign them additional energy. So, how do people feel about those kind of games? Do you prefer to just have this model has this much energy, end of? Or do you like the idea of having a pool of energy? There are caps. Your characters do have a maximum number of points they can use. So, for example, a leader can use a lot more, elite can use more, whereas a scrub can only use a little. So, let's say you had 5 models, you have 10 action or energy points to distribute amongst them as you sort of see fit, rather than them all having the exact same amount. How do you prefer about that? Do you prefer each person has this action and that's sort of all they've got? Or do you like the idea of having your army has X amount of energy and you can distribute it as you see fit? Ah, nice. Came up with the name. We were playing. I'm trying to decide if that's meant to say Flint Lock or if it's meant to say Fagint Lock. We've actually got a German speaker in the chat, so we can find out. Playing pool mechanics, it creates a slightly different tactical problems. True. I think it's interesting because I really enjoyed the way Moonstone did it. I really struggle with Guild Ball. I think that's because I love uh, Dreadball. Dreadball? Yeah, Dreadball by Mantic. And so anything to do with other sports games are always lesser. Remember the Winds of Magic in earlier Warhammer Fantasy? So Warhammer Fantasy, my first Warhammer Fantasy was the one with Bretonnians and Lizardmen. And for that game, I had, maybe even still have, the Winds of Magic expansion. So I want to say yes. I remember having cards because I remember the Skaven deck was a pain to get hold of. What I don't remember is how the magic did it. Can you give us a reminder of how the magic worked then? Blog became Boggenwald, and a couple of years later I found a GW plastic sign, and on it said Boggenwald. Flog expansion fully. Ah, nice. Nice. Yes, Flintlock. Yes. With an L I've definitely heard of. Right, you guys. Am I doing anything else to you? Nope. You could be done. So let's base you up. Get some flowers on you. Make you feel pretty. And put you away. Let's get a brush. And I don't love too much. You must sacrifice yourself for me. Ooh, this one's got a wee bit stiff. The idea is that you get 2d6 cards per magic phase and they are shared amongst your wizards. They might be power cards, dispel cards, whatever. Yes, yes, I do remember that because I remember being really grumpy when I pulled only dispel cards. Yeah, they then went for you had like you rolled for your power stuff like that, and I remember they also did it like your opponent got half your sort of your wizard, the same way it wins of magic sort of energy. Yeah, it's one of those funny things. Is a lot of those sort of chaotic random elements from their games they've removed. On the sort of the idea of they make the game too random. But I still didn't say the games are particularly any game that has just dice is always going to be a difficult one. Has anyone else seen any other pool ideas? Any other pools? Still have my magic from the Winds of Magic and most of my Wood Elves and a lot of Bretonnians. My Elizabeth went years ago. Do you know what? I hope they bring back Bretonnians. I would really quite like to paint some knights. I've actually after the last stream when we were chatting about the miniature Stephen was painting, I went through and like found the Pegasus Knights from Highland Miniatures, And I was like, you know what? I just want some normal ones as well. So I messaged my friend who has a ridiculous number of printers, who is always available to hire at the Wonder Emporium. You can find him on Etsy, Wonder Emporium GB. And I said, hey, I want some more knight models, please, because I really want to do some of those. Just some like knight heraldry and stuff like that. They had really cool rules as well. That was formations. Again, not a huge number of games have that. Not war games, but when your miniatures are in this array, they would get certain bonuses. So with the Bretonians, you could like do wedge formations, line formations, and it actually had an impact on the game, which was pretty awesome. And of course, you had some ridiculous things like the Headless Knight, the Green Knight who could not die, could not, should not die. I mean, an Empire-born dwarf. Dwarves! I still have my waterside gentlemen. The Dronians, nice. I just remember like going, well, basically these types of knights, the knights errants, basically just don't have the helmet bit. So rather than paying for the metal ones, I just chopped the cresty bits off the top, and bam, my Bretronians were now errant knights. Do you know what? Models that have aged very well, the Knights of the Holy Grail metal upgrade kit still looks fantastic. I remember the champion of that unit just looks like, I don't know, like King Arthur or something. He was so cool. I swear he had a crown on. I swear he did. Oh, Age of Sigmar, you did the boys dirty. You did them so dirty. Hail Caesar has some formation rules, if I remember correctly. Not played it. Eyed it up. Didn't, because that's Warlord Games, if I remember correctly. Warlord, to be honest, I like their games. I really like their games, yeah. Talk about ships in a little bit. But no, I haven't tried Hail Caesar. I bought Victrix models, and I would like to use my Victrix models for Hail Caesar and see how that goes. Because the Victrix models, I don't think they have their own game. They just have such nice models. And every young man reaches a certain age where he suddenly wants to play historicals. James is taking his Brits to a tourney in September. Fantastic. What game system are they? What are you using? Ninth Ed? Ninth Ed, as it's called? What game system are you taking your Patronians for? Right, I need the flowers. Where did I put those flowers? Tufts. After the last stream, I went and had a look. Some of you gets had bought some, but they still had some. I ordered myself another pack. War Painter Net. Really good, affordable tufts. Let's get some of these tufts on. I need to get myself more bark. I saw when I was walking home a nice bit of bark, but it had woodworm, and whilst I would recommend nuking all your stuff in the oven, and it should kill it. If you have any sort of wood in your house, I would not risk it. I didn't risk it. That's up to you. You're adults. Good old fashioned 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. What? There are tournaments for that up near you? Very jealous. Kings of War is worth checking out if you have never tried it. It is a good old-fashioned rank blank. I really like Osprey rules. We play Lion and Dragon Rampart as well as the men who would be king. These undead are for a huge Dragon Rampart game in October. I haven't played Osprey games. I believe that's another one that Uncle Atom from Tabletop Minions talks about quite a lot. One of the disadvantages of the club that's down here is it meets every other Saturday. It also doesn't start till 12. I'd much rather a club that starts a lot earlier and B, something that meets more regularly. Because the issue with that is people, if you have to wait 2 weeks between games, have completely lost interest. So basically, you've got to make sure that you play all the games at your house. Right, I am calling these bad boys done. Just remember, it's about getting them done as quick as possible. He says as quick as possible. It's taken me an hour to do those. 6 models in an hour. That's not speed painting, Sam. That is not speed painting. Right, what we got? Do I fancy more orky boys? Let's do the archers. Archeries. Donk, donk. 3 of them. Does that sound about the right number? Yeah, it sounds about the right number to me. Right, what have we got? We've got one piece of cloth that's almost everything. We have metal down the bottom, which clearly I missed. So I'm going to have to do that first before the silver dries. More silver up here. There's going to be a whole bunch of silver, browny red top, some fletching, and the skin. Okay, that should be relatively quick. Let's do the skin first. It's always that balance in your batch size between actually feeling like you've accomplished something and what is actually efficient in terms of the amount that you do in a single batch. Like I said, 100 night goblins, not a good idea. You will lose the will to live very quickly. Has everybody found something to be working on? Like I said, my intention is to get Discord working so people can actually jump in and show what they're working on live. That is the hashtag dream. Maybe I can bully someone else into doing the OBS stuff behind the screen at some point, so I don't have to keep an eye on it all the time. Or have all the scenes already preset. It's one of those balancing acts that you've got to constantly be aware of. How big is my face versus how big is the screen? I think this is a reasonable ratio for the quality of the camera. I think I would need a better camera to be able to move up to the next level of zoom. Dunk. I'm here to support, not graft. You should absolutely be grafting. I'm sure that you have some models that need painted. If you're the only gamer that doesn't have a backlog, well, we will hail you as our king and give you a crown right now. But of course, the attendance is appreciated as well. This is every other Wednesday night. So next Wednesday will be the podcast. So you can check us over at Hobby Hoarders Podcast. Matt and myself will be yammering on as we are wont to do. The topic has yet to be decided. And then the week after that, it will be back on here. Again, topic to be decided. I mean, if there's a topic people particularly want to talk about in one of these, please do let me know. But we're talking game mechanics. Game mechanics that we love. We wish we were in more games. or just that we particularly enjoy. I've been getting right into Root recently. If you've not played Root, it is about as asymmetrical as a game possibly can get. Every faction plays differently, every faction has its own special rules, and I have been absolutely hammering that recently. I've got it on the phone because I played it once in person, lost, and being the absolute tryhard I am, I absolutely hammered that. I think my favourites are the Eerie, which are a bunch of crows. They have this amazing mechanic where you have to achieve certain goals. So let's say that you upgrade yourself so you can fight extra places. So you might have to fight in a location that's yellow. And if you don't fight in a location that's yellow, then you get a revolt. Your current king gets kicked out and ousted. Another one gets voted in. And so every turn you have to constantly be adding this. But everyone else is just trying to mess you up by interrupting your plan. The cats start off across the entire board and they basically have to produce loads of stuff, like build loads of buildings and expand and be really aggressive. And then you've got the Woodland Realm, which are like the rebellion, and they've got to spread their influence across the map. And it's a great game. Although apparently it's one of those games where you spend ages explaining the rules to someone, and then you never get to play with that person again, and so you always end up playing with the basic rules over and over and over again. I still thought it seemed like a great game, mind. I like that idea. That's always fun. How do people feel about dice games? When you've got a game, would you like it to have dice? Or are you not a fan? So you've got things like 40k, where it's entirely based on dice. You've got things like the Game of Thrones, where you have each model is worth a certain amount of battle, and so you basically have, if you have a horse, it's worth 2. If you have a foot soldier, it's worth 1. If you put them in battle together, you can see straight away who is going to win, and then you have to play, hero cards. You play hero card, it upgrades your points, and then that determines who wins. Is that there is randomness to that because obviously you have what your opponent plays. That's not really random, but you've also got the Winds of War if you want to, which will randomly add either defense to protect your guys, offense to kill the opponents, or just sheer strength to win the battle. I do like that. I'm trying to think of other games because obviously most of them are dice games these days. Can anyone else think of other battle games where it's not dice, it's predetermined? I guess Magic the Gathering, that's sort of predetermined because everyone has an attack power. I wish you could spell on this tablet. Knock off the last 3 words, and I agree. I wish I could spell. What do you think, though? What game mechanics have you seen that you're like, oh, this should be elsewhere? This is a good game mechanic. I definitely like it when people level up during a game. And I don't mean like through spells, I mean like they permanently level up. Like if you're playing Total War and you fight over stuff and they level up. The previously mentioned Mythic Pantheon do that. So as you go around the board, you can absorb stuff called Omphalos. And as you have more Omphalos, your god levels up and actually unlocks some new abilities, or their existing abilities get stronger. And I think that's a really cool mechanic. I'm trying to think if any war games I've ever played have a level up mechanic. There's a board game I've played. I want to say Battle of Brothers, but I could be completely wrong. And I mean, it's very much like almost an RTS, like Command and Conquer, where as you upgrade buildings, they level up, or as they kill things, they level up, which is great. But can anyone think of any war games, any miniature war games that have something similar where you actually level up as you play the game? It's very sort of a MOPA thing, isn't it? What's it called? Storm of Heroes? Something like that? Let me turn it on its head. Game mechanics, I don't like custom dice. So you wouldn't like Conan, where you have swords on the dice that indicate like sort of damage. So Conan has like one dice with three swords on it, two sides with two, three sides with one, and then one with a blank. That sort of mechanic, or do you mean like X-wing? So where you have, when you roll the dice, you get either like an eyeball, you get a blank, you get a hit, or you get a crit. Is that the kind of critical that you're not a fan of? What do you mean by custom dice? How far does this rabbit hole go? I hope you don't mean like just when people bring their own dice to games, like the absolutely ridiculous squig dice from Games Workshop. They were fantastic. I would love to own a set of them. Apparently, they chip really easily, but they were basically the shapes of squigs. So when you wrote them, they had no pattern. They were so random. Absolutely great. Chris says, my favourite mechanic is the exploding sixes or eights can make for some spectacular games that should have never been possible. Absolutely agree. Yeah, Dan, that was in the chat earlier, was saying the same thing. He absolutely loves the exploding dice mechanic. I absolutely agree. I like the fact that just by the very nature of that kind of rule existing, it takes away, it doesn't take away the competitiveness of a game, but it forces you to take it a little less seriously because you know that you can be doing well and then a single dice roll can screw you, but not in the way of like a frustrating one where you roll like six ones on a dice. I've never had it where my opponent has rolled stupidly well on exploding dice that I wasn't amused rather than annoyed. Because you're just sort of flabbergasted at how well it goes, and you're just like, what? I cannot believe that you just went from two dice to like six dice. Absolutely awesome. So yes, I completely agree. In my Roman game, when I do that, maybe I could start doing the design thing on a stream if you all promise not to steal the game. Maybe we could do that. Oh my goodness, a whole bunch of chats appeared. Own leveling, I can think of More Time, Frostgrave, that kind of skirmish game. With More Time and Frostgrave, you level up after the match, though, don't you? I don't think you leveled up during it. God, I miss More Time. Someone did a video recently about More Time, and it just got me. Oh, it was Squidmar, wasn't it? Squidmar did a video on More Time, and it got Sergey messaging me from MiniQuest 64, and he's going to be making videos, and he's printing off a massive More Time board, which will be awesome. I also, I definitely will at some point pick up the new Witch Hunter box sets. I think they were for Underworld. I always forget what it's called. But that one, their hex-based game, I think that's what it's for. The same as my vampires. Absolutely picking those models up. Gorgeous, and they just scream more time to me. I wish I had not sold them. Ah, yeah, they level up after the game. Yeah, there's a couple of games like that. Still good. Anything with a league is always better than an individual game. Carl makes stuff. I was thinking the same thing. No, pimped up dice are awesome. To be honest, I prefer games that focus on narrative, so I really enjoy Kill Team and the such. I have not played enough Kill Team to be able to go, hey, yeah, that's definitely a narrative game. But I imagine it's similar to things like More Time. and Frostgrave, and I love them. I really want to do a Crusade 40k sort of league. I'd really like to do that. Anytime that again your characters level up and whatnot, that'd be fun. Also, when it forces you to use models that you wouldn't normally use in your game, that's always good as well. I think anytime it makes you use models is good. Savage Worlds allows you to roll up if you get a natural on your dice, e.g. a 6 and a d6 in one Weird Wars game, my mate T4 managed to roll 28 and save the kernel. Nice. You've got little things like that, don't you? You've got like you used to have in the old world for chaos. If your chaos champion did something, you rolled on the Eye of Chaos table. If you rolled really well, you became a demon prince, which was sometimes a downgrade depending on what the rules were regarding magic weapon and magic items. Uh, oh no, that's what it was. It was in our Blood Rage game because we did a campaign that was basically 2 years long, and someone rolled for their character to go up to a demon prince. And the demon prince special rules like replaced the existing special rules, and the existing special rules were way better. But then on the flip side, if you rolled a double one or a triple one or whatever it was, you became a spawn. But that could happen in game. So yeah, that kind of thing, that kind of stuff is great. I really enjoy games with the card decks for setup, scenery, deployment, and twist. Yeah, Warcry. Warcry is where it's at. Did everyone see the new Warcry models? Has anyone been eyeing them up? Anyone tempted? I think I need a brown now for my bow. Anyone tempted with the new models? Well, we've got the Gar models. Nah, it's too yellow. Too yellow. I want a dark brown. I've still got to catch up with my Warcry. I don't have the spider dudes yet. And by all intents, those guys are actually amazing at the game at the moment as well. But I just love the fact that I can use all of them in Age of Sigmar under my my Be'lakor army, because I'm just running that as just a ragtag mix of models. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. The other thing about Warcry is, again, you just can't take it too seriously. It's almost like a beer and pretzels game. I think the fastest game I played lasted about 90 seconds. It was kill someone that's not the leader. My opponent put down the character that was not the leader. The chance card was all movements are doubled. I was the vulture dudes, the raven, birdie, chaos cult ones. And so I moved my leader, double his movement. He could fly. So he just shot across the battlefield, got this one guy, killed him. That was it. Game over. And again, you can't take that too seriously. When a game can end in just one move, how can you possibly take it seriously? Not to say you can't play tournaments. I'm just saying just don't take the game seriously. It's great. It almost, in a way, not formations per se. I suppose Age of Sigmar has formations in some way, but I mean physically placing the models. But it has that mechanic where when you roll your dice, you make sets of dice, and what you rolled, you trade those sets of dice in. I do like that. That's a cool idea. That is a cool idea. I put my brush in the wrong paint. You know what? It came out great. I can do my my dry brush and my highlight at the same time. It's fine. A wash will deal with that. Absolutely fine. What is it? This 40, 50 models in this box? All we're interested in getting them done. Maybe a bit more time on the heroes because they'll stay on the board longer. For these guys, let's get the base on them and call them done. Half an hour. Took me an hour on the other guys. Bah. Still about the same timing considering there's half the number of models as there was for the other set. Check out Heresy Labs for newer mod time. Heresy Labs. I don't want to be known about your I don't want to be known about your new good models. No, can't afford it. Let's see, where's my notepad? I've got EM4 Gladiator to check out. And I have Heresy Labs. I assume that's like a Patreon by the sounds of it, which does. Uh... Unless, of course, you're a shell. Are you coming in and you selling me all these models? You're like, yes, I own parts of each of these businesses. In which case, well played. Well played. Stream notes, we'll call it. I guess stream notes 2, because I've already got stream notes 1. Doink. Lovely. I will check out Heresy Labs for Wartime style miniatures. I still have my Wartime rules, etc. My mate and I am going to start a campaign using printed models. I still have the original Skaven in plastic humans, but they are fragile now. Fragile now? Well, is the plastic like degraded? I think I mentioned in the last stream I'm listening to the Gotrick and Felix, and I'm at the Skaven Slayer, and it's just making me miss playing Skaven. In a way, they're the orcs of the Age of Sigmar or of the old world. Because the orcs and goblins had some funny things, like where you would chuck your models and stuff like that, but they're not as like crazily unpredictable as 40k orcs. Yeah, I would say I like unpredictability. Give me a model that's really good, but give it some absolutely whack trait. I think that's going to be need to be another game mechanic in my Gladiator game. Let's make some of them bloodthirsty or unpredictable, or do something like that. Zombicide, you level up as you go. Were you part of the huge campaign I did? I was. We played it was a fan-made campaign where basically joined all of the different Zombicide expansions all together. You had a little hamlet, you had to upgrade it. It was fantastic. Yes, Zombicide's a great example of where the models level up. Absolutely agree. We were talking about Zombicide earlier because of the horde mechanic. There just doesn't seem to be that many games where you kill that many models. Speaking of Skaven, there was a game I really, really enjoyed called Shadow the Horned Rat. Don't know if any of you played it on PC. And that was great because there was some maps where there was just unlimited enemies. And you could just sit there and just basically just farm them until either you had to start running away or they cheesed you. Or they brought out too many warp block throwers or something like that. What do people like? Do people like unpredictability? Do you like when something can go horribly wrong with a unit? Or would you just find that frustrating? I'm playing a video game at the moment called Darkest Dungeon, and it has sort of an unpredictability. All the characters are like slightly, have different mental quirks, and it just makes for a really interesting game. You have to plan who you're taking to the coves, who you're taking to the crypts, because they'll all react differently. You have to manage their mental health throughout it. Like does the torch fall below a certain level? Does one of them have like a fear of blood, so you have to make sure that there's always bandages to stop people bleeding, all that kind of good stuff. House Labs makes really nice models. I've supported them on Kickstarter. Cool. I did not know that. And that would be nice. I had a goblin army in Warhammer. That is an army for unpredictability. Yeah, because they had things like the Goblin Thrower, the Doom Diver, your Fanatics were random. I still remember one of my favorite ever battle reports, back when they did, proper battle reports. That would be good for a magazine. If people did like a redo of like the old style where you had little squares with the icon in it. But I remember there was a photo at the end of the battle, and this one fanatic had killed the Wyvern boss, had killed the Bretonnian boss, had killed loads of great swords or Bretonnian cavalry. I can't remember which army it was going through. I feel like it was Bretonnians. Had killed tons of black orcs. But I don't know. It doesn't feel as like apocalyptic as the Skaven did. The Skaven, you'd fire a weapon, roll a dice, and on a one it would just explode, or your slaves would run away or they would revolt. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking specifically with the weaponry that it just felt a little bit more like 40k orcs feel like. Did the orcs have anything that were random? I don't remember. So we've got a mixed consensus, I think. I think some people like the idea of random chaos. Some people not so much a fan. I would say that I would classify myself as a competitive player, but I like the random element because then there are games that I don't feel competitive about, and it means that I can just sit back and enjoy them. Of course, yes, the goblins and orcs, if you didn't do your leadership right or if you didn't have big bosses. Because, of course, the black orcs could come over and inflict a wound on the unit or automatically inflicted a wound on the unit. I can't remember which. And that would, like, just straight away uh, do it. And black orc units didn't suffer from that. Cool. Next one's calling done. Got the silvers, got the jerkins. Again, we'll wash those later once we've done all the models. Right, what is next? These orky boys here. They look like some kind of elites. Still not unique though, so they still get the fast treatment. So other gaming mechanics, Let's think. Moonstone replaces the dice completely. They have cards, so you're fighting with cards. You each have a deck. Each deck has the same cards in it, but your character draws different number of cards. So if your guy's really good at fighting, you might get 7 cards. The other person might get like 3. And so based on that, you could tell what your opponent might have. Because if you had all 3 of one type of attack, you knew that they didn't have any. And so whatever card they played would bounce off of yours. So if they did a lunge and you did a low guard, you would stop all the damage. If they did a cleave and you did a low guard, well, that would be the worst combination because your head would be out and they would just do loads and loads of damage. So that's pretty good. Hello, Dave. I'm picking up my Star Wars land speeders. Is that for Star Wars Legion? If so, very nice. I've got mine to do as well. One of the few games I could say that was 100% fainted, and then a friend of mine decided to split the box. I'm painting Journey to Middle-earth. I'm doing the orcs. Last session we managed about 12. So far we've got 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if I can get these 3 done in the next 30 minutes to an hour, I'll have done the same number of minis as last time. Have you played What a Tanker? No. What is What a Tanker? I would take a wild guess that it's something to do with tanks. I don't want to say 100%. It definitely feels like it would be something to do with tanks. One of my favorite games growing up on the PS2 was World War Tank or Battle Tanks or something like that. It was great. It had like just basically 100% destructible terrain. Absolutely everything was destroyable, and it was absolutely great. But I don't think that's what you're talking about. Who knew that some details are much, much harder to paint with a dry brush? But I refuse to give up. I am not getting out a normal brush. This is the way. Look at me, look at me. I am the captain now. Lord of the Rings orcs are so cool. Uh, yeah, the actual Lord of the Rings range models. These ones are fine. They're absolutely fine. But it has to be said that the Games Workshop Lord of the Rings models are much, much nicer. I've got a bunch of I did 36 bases for my Morannon orcs. So I've got those to build in there. Those will not just be getting dry brushed. They deserve a little bit of respect. But these models, they're for a board game. It's fine. I would rather get them up to a level that I can use them in a game and say they're painted than just take forever and never have any done for it. So they are getting the quick painting treatment. What have we got in the back? We have fur. Well, you know I'm a sucker for the grey and white fur. So let's do the grey and white fur. That's gone metal grey. That's what I'm going to do. Neutral grey. Now that is a good colour. I played my first game of Moonstone last week. It's very cool. I played with the Golden Pirates. Please, I know. I wouldn't say your location. I know that you now live near me. So if you fancy a game, well, I mean, everyone can know where Element Games is. If you fancy a game at Element Games, please shout me out. I would absolutely love to come and play. I have the ferry. I've got 3 boxes, but I can always proxy the final model. Absolutely great game. So if you fancy a game of that, do let me know, and I will sprint over. And if you want to play Malifaux, and you want to record any battle reports, again, let me know. I'm not as good at Malifaux as I used to be. But having seen how many models you've got painted over in your channel, if anyone's a fan of Malifaux, go check out Dave's channel. Or you're just a fan of any models, go check out Dave's channel. Great channel. And you're going to be pumping out loads of videos now. I mean, Dave, if you're looking for a job, we're hiring at the moment. If you fancy being an IT trainer, I mean, you're already halfway there. You already do that for a YouTube job. Well, not for a YouTube job, but you know what I mean. Sadly, everyone else outside of the UK, I'm afraid it is an office-based job. So, sadly, no point in playing if you're in a different country. See you later, ManyQuest. Thank you very much for visiting. If you haven't gone and checked out ManyQuest channel, go and check out. You roll 6 dice, and each dice has a thing you can do, so you can move, spot, turn, reload, aim, and fire. Nice. When it comes to when it comes to that, Dead Zone has something similar. With Dead Zone, everyone has standard actions. You roll dice, and the 6 sides have not quite the same, but they have actions on them, and those actions obviously determine what you then do. So it's vaguely similar, vaguely, a little bit similar. But speaking of random mechanics, nice. Oh, that's good then. That means that there's probably a community of players that play it. The guy I play with is over in Wales. So if there's some people at Element that play it, fantastic. I always find choosing your faction in a game is one of the hardest things of getting into a game. What if you choose the wrong faction? If you want a powerful faction, just ask Chris what faction he'd play, and that'll be the most OP faction. Even if it's accidental, like he claims. What do people think of when they think of actions? I mean that game. What did we call it? Tank on tank combat. That sounds cool. I like that. It's like actions but random. Because we talked a little bit about pools of actions, which is cool. What about giving yourself? Some people have actions, so everyone has base actions, but then you can add extra actions using dice. You make the dice random, or you. Sorry, not actions. I'm talking about activations now. So what do people prefer? Do you prefer you do your entire force? I do my entire force. Do you prefer it where we do one, you do one, we do one, you do one? Or bolt action has one that's absolutely great. Bolt action, you have a dice. So every one of your models has dice. You put those dice inside of a bag, rattle them all up, and you pull the dice out, and that will be randomly who it is that's going. So in theory, your opponent could have 6 activations in a row, and you could have 6 activations in your row, depending on how many models you have. Obviously, if you have more units, you'll have more dice in the bag. Or you've got Star Wars Legion. Star Wars Legion, You play basically an initiative card that chooses who gets to go first. Then it's alternating, but the individual units you get to assign orders to X number of units. So say I assign 2 orders. Those 2 definitely get to act when I choose, but the rest of the unused units are put in a random pile, and I can choose to draw from that random pile instead of using one of my preordained ones. So what do people like? Alternating actions 100%. Yep, before I'm even finished. I mean, anything that means that you don't. But you don't fancy the sort of the risky element of you might get to use all your or half your army first. It's the idea of it like bolt action, pulling from a random bag, not appeal. I have to say, I definitely don't approve of Age of Sigmar's one where they can have a double turn. Imagine having to wait 2 full turns before it's your turn again. Having said that, if I ever draw it, I'm taking it. I mean, let's face it, running Sons of Behemoth means that I basically don't get to do anything in my turn anyway. I want sympathy. I didn't choose it because it was an overpowered army. When I first started playing it, it was not a good army. Just saying. Right, what do we need? We need something for his sarong thingy. I think I'm going to go red, just because I've already got red in my palette. How about it? Yeah, Crunkle, don't go on Discord, is the guy. He's local as well. I will. Yeah, I'll put that down. I'll drop him a message. Thank you, Dave. Crunkle Dunkle. Let's put in the description as to why I'm contacting him. Alternating action 100%, bolt action style or alternating activations over everything else for me. Nah, mostly it's because I get bored between turns. Absolutely true. If you can play if you can play another game in between your turns, then that game is too long. Also, the fact that you can lose your entire army. Malifaux's alternating, isn't it, Dave? I fully remember how you do it. Yeah, because there's not like initiative. How about alternating versus initiative? How do people feel about like initiative order? So if all models, not armies, but models have an initiative stat, or would that just annoy you? Would that not be as fun? Do you prefer guaranteeing your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn? One that I really like, I just like the game because I like ships, is Mantic's, oh God, what's it called? Kings of War Armada. And the way the Kings of War Armada is decided is you do the wind, and the ships closest to the wind get to go first. So you can like sort of almost chase the wind around the board. And the wind, of course, has a habit of moving, which then changes the activation order. Although, to be honest, I've never had it move far enough to make a significant difference in a game, which is a bit sad. I would have liked it if it had, significantly altered play. But most of the time, by the time you're in the wind, you're either in the wind or you're not, which is a bit of a shame. Unless, of course, you've got a magic spell. There's a magic spell that lets you move the wind, which is very powerful. Because if you've got your biggest ships in the wind and they have no ships between you and them, they're going to blow you out of the water. But I've also never found it to be that unbalanced. Okay. Ships. You said ships. That's both the accent and the tongue tag. One smart ship, it felt smart. Two smart ships, they look smart. Three smart smart ships, they all looked smart together. Alternating activations with Malifaux, pass markers, or bolt action dice in the bag. Nice. Yeah, Malifaux's alternating, and if you have less minis, then you get pass markers you can play instead of activating models. Vanguard has something similar, although with Vanguard there is a cap on the number of passes you can do. So in Malifaux, I don't know if it's a case of, oh, if you've got half the number of models, you get half the number of pass markers. In Mantic's Vanguard, it's you only get a maximum of like 2 passes, and you cannot use them both in a row. So I'm not sure how Malifaux does it. The way having more minis doesn't mean that you get to activate last. I see he's causing my paint bottles to spurt when I open them. Ah, no. Done that before. Get yourself a needle. Start poking the holes. Did it with the speed paints after I just got them. Squeezed the red paint, which is probably the best of the bunch, and just went everywhere. Because the little the speed paints come with a ball bearing already in them. And I just popped it. Popped it right out. Right. Do I want to do anything else? Yeah, let's do a highlight on the brown. Little white, little brown. Oh, sure. Why not? Some yellow as well. I should really get a better palette. I do have a wet palette, but I'm dry brushing, so there's no point. But I can never tell when something's dry or not, so I was trying to mix white and brown, and this yellow turns out it's still wet. So now I've got a brownie yellow. Miniature painting is art. It's not science. It's art. That's my lie, and I'm sticking with it. Just the big beasties, and nice. Nice, nice, nice. And then it's 100 and something models to go. All the undead models. What other game mechanics have you seen? Any that you made you go, ooh, now that is really cool? And I don't just mean war games. It can be anything. Board games. I mean, if it's translatable, I guess even, video games. If there's a particular mechanic that you're like, you know what, that is cool. I think any other games where I was like, oh, now that is really cool. Champions Midgard I really like, where you've got like food for quests, but it's not really something that's translatable through necessarily. It's just a cool mechanic in its own right. Oh, adding rust and oil washes will take no time at all. You'll have them done. Easy, easy mode. The basis of these done. Like game mechanics that I particularly enjoyed. There was a game called, it wasn't called Clash of Clans. What am I talking about? No, that's something else. Wrath of Kings. And the way Wrath of Kings did fighting was on your character, it was a D10 system. There was 10 numbers, and each of those numbers had a symbol. So the guys that were really good at swords might have the riposte symbol. So if you were attacking them with swords, then if you rolled the riposte, they would block your damage and you would take damage. Whereas if you were an archer or a mage user and you rolled the number for the riposte, obviously they couldn't hit you back, so they just took the damage. Some of them had like 1 and 10. They had like hard scales, so like nothing could injure them in that. So like your bosses had that sort of system. You had ones where it was like they were magic creatures, so they deflected magic attacks back. And so it really forced you to consider the types of units that would attack. Because one thing I've always found a lot of the time, even in Old Hammer, if you had things like spears and pikes and whatnot, they wouldn't necessarily make you better than cavalry, even though, strictly speaking, that should be the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like there was necessarily a good rock, paper, scissors sort of, combination. Like in Warhammer 40k, against your tanks, you take heavy weapons units. Like that's a pure matchup mechanic, but this was built into it. So every model was good or bad against different model types. 139 minutes in 2 weeks. I now hate painting. To be fair, 139 miniatures in 2 weeks is pretty good. The only time I've ever cheesed that higher is when I painted the Tau army, and that was about 200 models. It says 150 in the video, but it's more like 200. I just didn't fully paint some of the things like Kroot, and that was cheating and just using rattle cans, and that's it. So 139 is great going. You must have eaten your Frosties, because that's great. Or maybe you ate the Aldi brand. They're good. I love the fact that Aldi stuff. It's really really close. It's really close, but just beyond copyright. Does that ASMR music come up? I absolutely love that. I love that when people do that in this hobby. Like Miniac did that video about the AMSR, the like a love note to sounds in our hobby. I don't know if it'll take on. I think I painted 139 minis in 5 years. Oh, come on. Do you just paint for? Do you not play any army games, or do you just not paint that much, Carl? Right, let's get some bits of grass on these and call them done. Oh, these guys look particularly happy. Let's have some marigolds and coarse grass. Unless it's a caterpillar cake. Yes, for anyone in the UK or out of the UK, there are two types of cakes. They both look like caterpillars, and there is a massive copyright lawsuit getting waged between Aldi and M&S over this caterpillar cake, which is just brilliant. Just brilliant. As I said, this Vallejo stuff's great, whether or not you just want to paint it on and have it left, or if you want to let it dry after the textures build up. It's really good. Really good stuff. Apologies, Carl makes stuff. You're quite right. Carl paints stuff. It's someone else. Unless, of course, you're joking and you didn't realize, James, that there is a channel called Carl Paints Stuff. And you're being funny because, he doesn't paint stuff, he makes stuff. In which case it was doubly funny. Still haven't finished your Ophelia crew. That's because I started watching you did a stream recently where you were painting a Wong crew member. And I mean that both literally, it was a crew member from Wong, and it was the wrong ones. Shocking. You haven't done a stream in a little while, actually, Dave. Have you got a stream coming up soon? Oh, obviously, because you were moving. That would explain why you probably haven't done a stream in a while. I did not know that. Well, James, you might have been making a funny, but it was a very accurate funny. So well done. Yeah, I remember watching you paint the maybe yeah, the move was a real pain. Got COVID in the coat. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. Fantastic. Good, good. Hopefully you now living in a much cheaper part of the world can get yourself an entire room dedicated to hobby. Because yeah, that looked painful recording down in your tiny flat down south. Right. Who is next? Who is next? We've got a lady with a knife, a lady that looks like some kind of priestess, dwarf, a ranger, a hobbit, I'm going to take a wild guess. The one with the bow is an elf. Yeah, the one with the bow is definitely an elf. Oh, this is where it gets hard. It's always good when it's yeah, you were doing it in 2 hours. I remember that. I'm going to do dwarf. Let's do the dwarf. I don't think it's meant to be Gimli. I don't think any of these characters are meant to be like. Where's my wee white piece of paper? Darn it! Had a white piece of paper for the background so it could autofocus. Nope, I've lost it. Oh, there it is there. If it is meant to be Gimli, it doesn't really look like Gimli. Cool dwarf though. No, I mean, to be fair, it is black, so it's going to be a struggle to see his details. Yeah, if we can get one of the heroes done, that would be 6 heroes to go. Yeah, let's try and get one of the heroes done. And I am, of course, gonna make him a ginger. Because I can, and nobody can stop me. What? What? I did not. This looks like it's some kind of Essex girl colour, and it came out as like a light cream. I feel conned. That's not the colour I signed up for. What's this one called? Orange brown. Well, that was made for it. Dunk. There we go. So, other mechanics in games that were unusual. One I quite enjoyed is for a game called Mythia. It also has a one that comes after it, not predecessor, the opposite of predecessor. But what it does is the battlefield itself moves. So you're both due to your heroes that are allowed to do it once per game, but also due to events that happen in the game. So what happens is you might have loads and loads of characters in an advantageous position to strike, and then the board rejigs itself. The closest thing I can think of that I've seen in war games that did that was in Warhammer in Storms of Magic. And in Storms of Magic, they had these things called fulcrums, and the fulcrums could actually move, teleport, be destroyed, etc. And I quite like that. I like the unpredictability of the battlefield. I'm not sure how well that would transfer to other games, but you know how like uh, inside of Harry Potter, you've got the moving stairways. Why not have that? Why could you not have parts of the battlefield that would actually change or move? Why is that not more commonly a thing? Maybe because of the faff? Would moving battlefields be something that you would enjoy? Have you seen it before in games? I don't feel like I have. Is any of my white still dry? Not really, no. Is that later? Maybe. Moonstein's Melee Magic deck. Yeah, we were chatting about that earlier. In a way, a good player could really like not card count, but they could make educated predictions about the game based on it. I guess in Malifaux you could really do card counting. I mean that's another good example. Malifaux. In Science versus Pluck, the British are all played against an umpire. The terrain moves down the table towards the players to simulate movement. That sounds amazing. Science versus Pluck. What? How have I not heard of this? Science versus Pluck. Love it. Absolutely love it. That sounds great. Oh, not to be confused with Carl Makes Things. Bill Makes Things is another channel. He doesn't really do war games per such, but he did do one recently where he got a backgammon case. He magnetized the inside and then made terrain that you could then move around. Now, he was moving it around for the purposes of changing up the board between games, but you could, in theory, use that because, of course, you're using magnets, so you can move it around. If I get a 3D printer, you've no idea how many 6mm stuff I'm going to be printing. I've actually got a bunch of stuff that I picked up in a charity shop for 6mm Eldar, which I need to paint up, which I'm looking forward to. Moving terrain sounds interesting. Yeah, it doesn't happen a massive amount in games, or at least not that I know of. You could have, of course, things like Marvel Crisis Protocol. If your characters are strong enough, they can lift up like lorries and cars and throw them around. Night Models has the DC universe, but originally had the Marvel universe, and that was that sort of idea where you could like sort of move the little bits, destroy the little bits, but also move the big buildings. So if you were like Strength 5, like the Hulk, you pick up buildings and throw them, which would again change the sort of terrain. If you're playing Titanicus for Games Workshop, yeah, if you've got big enough guns, you can destroy terrain and you sort of replace it with rubble and stuff. That's quite good. Yeah. Right. What do we need next? I'm going to go with the green cape. Dark green, though. We're not some elf. Oh, what was I talking about needing paint mixers? Oh, yeah, Dave, that's a video we need you to do. We were chatting about it earlier. Um, a guy did a video talking about the new green stuff paint mixer, which is, I think it's £24. Um, but he talked about it and he's never had a vortex mixer. You, however, already have a vortex mixer and did a good review on one, so it would be interesting to get your point of view on it. What you thought of the new green stuff world one. James says, I quite like games with drafts, as it's almost a game before the game where you're trying to counter your opponents. As a tactical element, most games don't really get. Artesian and Mythic Battles are the two games that spring to mind. I don't know the former one. Arestia. Malifaux does something similar. There's quite a few war games that actually you take along. Vanguard for Mantic, it's not truly the same, but it's sort of the same where you have a basically like a draft pool. So if you imagine in Legion, it would be like saying I have 400 points of models from Legion, but I choose at the beginning of the battle some of those. Mantic's Overdrive has a hilarious one I absolutely love where you collectively form a pool from the models that you've brought, and then your opponent can actually choose one of the models you brought, which is just fantastic. Can you imagine being that you've bought and painted up this glorious model, and then your opponent drafts it onto their team? How absolutely mad would you be? I'd be both furious and exceedingly amused, and very likely to do it to my opponent. So I guess the model of the story is don't play me at overdrive, maybe? That's a terrible moral of the story. It's a bit like Kriegspiel in the way it is played. I'm afraid I don't know Kriegspiel either. Stephen, are you German? It seems like there's a lot of German words and repertoires. Did you live in Germany? I'd love to go to some of the German markets. They have so many board game things. Unfortunately, our guaranteed German has left. To be fair to him, Sergey would be about it'll be about 10:30 at night at the moment. It's one of those things is whenever I'm putting up the times for these, like trying to think of what time to put up, so I always tend to just put in universal time. But then it surprises me how many people don't use universal time. I guess because we have to use it at work for talking between different clients, um, because otherwise we would never be able to work it out what time it is. Uh, I think I saw the Green Stuff World mixer video. Interesting device. I do like that it doesn't take up desk. My mixer is a coffee-sized blob on my desk. Is it? Oh, is it, no, so you're saying it's quite big, your existing mixer. I'd absolutely love if you did a video where you compared the Greensworks, the Green Stuff World one, like I said, it's 24 quid, with your Vortex mixer. I'm trying to remember from your video, the one you bought was like 30, 40 pounds, so it wasn't as expensive as the 80 pound ones. But compare that then, and also why? Why is there not an attachment for a drill bit that I could already buy? I was trying to convince my friend Nigel to just print me something, make me something, print it, that's definitely something. You know how everyone always does, anyone that does YouTube channels has like products that they sell, like, Squidmar has his airbrush and Miniac has his models and his tin box. I want to do stuff that solves actual problems. Someone wants to beat me to it, that's fine. But one of the problems would be like just a drill bit that just adds it onto the end of your drill and you just spin it. Like it's a little pot that you put your pot into. How hard would it be to make that? Not hard at all. And the other thing that I would really want is something to do with base rims. How hard would it be to get something that I put this model into, I turn a little crank, it rotates him against several little wet rollers. Like if you were doing like a permanent marker, you could have like a bit of a pen here and it would just rotate through it. Bam. If you decide to patent that, cut me in on it. Yeah. If this malarkey a year down the line is still going, I'll absolutely look at making some of those things because it baffles me that they don't already exist. Absolutely baffles me. Right, how do I make his jerkin stand out so it doesn't look like everything else? Silver, that's what we do. Boom, 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 boom. And it's dry. Boo. Always too much paint. You'd like it, Aristia, it's hex based. I will add it to the list. Has it got nice models or is it like a board game? Aristia. SVP is a bit of a role play too. The characters are played in character. If done properly, it's great. I have players who are reporters for the Times. I have had players who were reporters for the Times. SVP. Of course, you live in Shetlands. Apologies, you did tell me that before. Green Stuff World one is not good if the top isn't on properly. Yeah, I love that. The video I watched by a relatively new channel. Let me see if I can't remember his name. His name is Always Strikes Back. The paint pot lid was slightly open and it sprays a line of paint, and it is very funny. Yeah, 30 to 40 quid for the mixer. Again, feel free to put an affiliate link if you like. Some people have mixed paint using a jigsaw with an attachment instead of a blade. That's a shout. If I could get a clamp bit, because you can get clamp bits for drills. I put a clamp bit, clamp it on there, and then I can spin it. Still risky. I'd prefer like a box. Use a giant sharpie for the base rims. It's what I used all the time. Yes, but I can't be bothered going round like this. I want a machine to do it for me. Heck, do you know what? For the prototype, I'll start off with something like a paint holder that literally holds like this. You turn it, a magnet holds it in place and rotates it, and you just stick a pen in the side and it will do it for you. You know what? That's coming out. Put that down. By my anniversary of the channel in January, I'll have made the prototype of that and I will put up the STL. Board game with great models. It's made by the same company that made Infinity, I believe. How have I not heard of it? Infinity's one I haven't managed to get into. It's a really clunky one. And that way you need someone that's, basically passionate that's going to drag you into it. I mean, if you know either of those and you fancy a game on Tabletop Simulator, I'm always down for that. We had a couple of good games of Legion. What is not to love? How's everyone getting on with their painting? Have people made some progress, hopefully? Some of you been here now over 2 hours. So hopefully you've made some progress. That's what these are for. Although I do get myself distracted with the chat sometimes. I reckon I'm just flubbing it in now because I know that I've already managed to hit 12. 12 models in 2 hours, I am absolutely okay with. If that is all I achieve, it's still more than I achieved the rest of the week. Editing videos, man, takes a while. Takes a while. Oh, we need some variety in there. We can't just have silver. That would work. Rotate against the pen. Exactly. ATP. Why turn it by hand like a chump? Add a hamster wheel. Fair. Fair. Or have children. Have children, wait until they're old enough, and then get them to have to do those kind of jobs for you. That's a reason to have children, right? Oh, geez. My paints are sitting on the transformer for my laptop. Ugh, very hot. Eating sweeties now, whilst waiting for the paint to dry on the second last model. Woohoo! It's the final countdown. I hope you can get that final model done, or at least done enough that you want it in the next 17 minutes. I would hate for you to have to finish it in the dark, all alone. What kind of sweets are you eating? No, don't talk about sweets, actually. I've got Kit Kats in the fridge, and I really, really don't want to have to eat them. Don't make me do it. I don't know about you, but whenever I get handles on axes that have this wonderful sort of hex thing, always got to be red. Always got to be red. I don't know why. You can actually make that with the Green Stuff World rollers. I made a whole bunch of them. It's probably one of the hardest things you can do on the Green Stuff World rollers, though, because you got to basically do it with two pads in two different directions, making sure you apply even pressure. Just a bit finicky. Once you got used to it, it's okay. I said, don't tell me. Although, having said that, you said tangy mix. I don't like tangy mix. Down with tangy mix. No, I don't like the sugar stuff. Remember to keep hydrated, folks. While speaking, trying on the last model. Better still tell the children not to do it, and voila, finish in no time. Nice. I have a dream of hooking an airbrush up to a gantry device and writing a program to automatically spray with the airbrush. Oh my goodness, I would love to see that. Do you know coding? If you don't know any coding, let me know. I would love to have a crack at the Python code. And if you don't already know 3D modeling, check out Sergey MiniQuest. You can always shout him out in the YouTube channel. And he's very good with Blender. If none of you have checked out Geordie Crafts, definitely check them out as well. And they're really good at the sort of Blender side as well, Dave. So if you need a hand on that, definitely ask them. PLE 3D printer, but an airbrush. Maybe the plastic punch through. That sounds cool. It is a lot of work, but come on. The best ideas are not free and they're not easy. You got to be the one. Be the change in the world you want to be. There's a video that's sort of like a massive scale of what you're describing. It's on what's his channel? It's a great channel. I want to say I did a thing. I did a thing. Or is that the no. So I did a thing is a completely different one. I did a thing is this Australian guy who's really irreverent and does really dumb stuff. He's clearly very smart, but he also does everything really dumbly. That's really good. I made a thing. No, things made here. Things made here. Things made here. Oh, stuff made here. Stuff made here. If you look up the video, stuff made here, And if you go to, again, yours would not be as horribly complicated, but trying to paint a giant wall with a robot, and he makes like a gantry with a like an automatic spray gun, and he does stuff like, oh, how hard it will spray and stuff like that, which might be similar to what you're describing, maybe. Yeah, I'm a software engineer. Oh, you're a software engineer? I did not know that. Getting the precision and tolerance is definitely the hardest. Cool. I have Blender on my PC, but have never get around to using it, or rather learning to use it. Yeah. It's like when we all had a copy of Photoshop. Everyone was going to be a Photoshop whiz editor. We downloaded it and then never did anything with it. But then again, if everyone could self-teach, I would be out of a job as an IT trainer. So I'm very glad that you can't all self-teach. No offense. Sounds very. It's just it's another hobby, isn't it? In the same way that 3D printing's another hobby, 3D sculpting's another hobby, painting's another hobby, playing's another hobby. I often wonder to myself, which hobby would I give up? Would I rather give up playing or would I rather give up painting? Maybe just because of all the lockdowns and whatnot. Things like big board games. I love playing them now online rather than playing them in person. This wasn't actually what I was reaching for. I was trying to get the face colored paint. Well, darn it. This is not face colored paint. Note for next time, get myself some white sticky tape to put around the sort of the rim on my uh, cutting board so I can actually see where my camera is. We were looking at it at the beginning of the stream. I don't know if some of you missed it. It's a new camera. It's still not crazy expensive. It was down to 20 quid on Prime Day, down from 40, 45, something like that. And first of all, it's supposedly HD, which it probably is. But more importantly, you'll notice it has autofocus, which the other one claimed it had, but this one definitely has autofocus. I wouldn't say it's the best in the world, but it does it. Right, last 10 minutes string. I don't think I actually did the base rims on these models. No, I didn't. Well, that's a problem for another day. Let's do his face next. Let's do some whatever color this is. It doesn't say. It's this color. Skin. Has everyone progressed with their models going? We've got Stephen on his last model, firing through it. Chris, Dan, Dave, ATP, how are you getting on? Hopefully progress being made. If you make progress, do feel free to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see it. Again, the plan is to be able to have Discord, just have anyone that wants to drop in and out able to drop in and out, so it's just not me talking. So anyone wants to show off what they've done will be good. Maybe if I create a Discord for anyone that's in the chat so they can just put the pictures up. Probably be the easiest way of doing it, because then I could just share directly via OBS the pictures by screen share. I mean, we haven't even seen half of the screens that I set up. We've got this one. We have, oops, let's see, where's my mouse? We've got this screen. We've got the starting screen. We have the Be Right Back stream. I've even set up an intermission screen. A lot of these were like basically the parts were already there, so you just needed the parts. So it was the intermission screen. Probably the least edited of all of them. As you can see, they still had the wrong dates in there, and nothing in the intermission. So I need to get myself like a little video clip or something to put in that intermission. Then I have the just chatting, which is actually set up. That was the one I had on at the very, very beginning. And then I have the last one, which is stream ending, which is really not that interesting. Where do I want to be? I want to in game. There we go. But I've got a video made by Carl Mixings, who did a video all about stingers. So that's the next thing. But new camera, new setup. I think the color grading and whatnot came out better. Still need to spend more time on the whitewashing though. Just about finished my land speeder driving. Nice. Right, I need some kind of white or something like that next, I think. Got anything in here I could use in that color? Let's see. Let's see if I mix that. Yeah, that'll do. Let's use that. Does anyone else, when they randomly take colors off their wet palette and like combine it with random other colors, you're like, yes, I am an artist. And then you really like the outcome, and then you realize that there's absolutely no chance of you replicating it on any of your other models. Oh well, that's life. Just need a little highlight. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, you know what, I like that color so much, it can also be a highlight for the hair. Bonk, bonk. Definitely needs more color. I think I'm going to struggle to dry brush the rest of these details though. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose if we were real professionals, we would mix up a batch of our paint and then store it. But I do find when I'm painting freer, like when I'm just making designs on the hoofs like this, I enjoy painting more. It's one of those weird catch-22s. I like box art because I can just copy the box art and use that as my basis, but I get frustrated that it doesn't match the box art. Whereas when I'm doing this, it's random. I like that it's random. It's more fun to do, but then it doesn't necessarily always look as good. Doing olive highlight on his cape, give him some more visual interest. It's a bit more interesting. This middle bit is not good enough. I'll pretend it's not done. That's what I'll do. So any last game mechanics we want to squeeze in? Any last ones we want to go, hey, this is grand. I'll tell you one game mechanic that I'm not a fan of. Now, I like skeletons. I like the idea of skeletons. I like the idea of vampire counts. I like the idea of summoning stuff. What I don't like is actually Vanguard's rule. So in Mantic's Vanguard, when you knock someone down, they have a chance to get back up again. Now that's all fine, but you should be able to like almost like rip to post them on the ground. You should be able to just like take them out. Because the worst thing is when you put them on the ground and they stand back up, and then they're almost like back at full hit points. Certainly the little guys just are, and then you knock them down, they get back up, you knock them down, and it's just not satisfying. I think if something is going to be dead, it needs to be down, and it needs to not get back. Bum the skeletons on the black seats now look like scary nuns as I went with a blue-grey base and a black mantle. It's like a scene from Sister Inc. God, I've not watched that in ages. Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg always makes me laugh because she was Sister Act, etc. And then she applied to be on this little show called Star Trek Next Generation. May or may not have heard of it, but they were like, "What? Like a superstar like you?" And it's because growing up, she watched the original O'Hara from the original Star Trek and was like, "Wow, this is amazing to have like a role model on TV." And so she desperately wanted to be in Star Trek. And that's how Whoopi Goldberg ended up in Star Trek Next Generation. It's probably a slightly abbreviated, slightly butchered version of the story. Game mechanics. Any other unusual game mechanics that you like or don't like? We've had to look at things like randomness, which is always good. Reinforcements. Anyone played any games where like reinforcements is a factor? Apart from things like narrative games. How do people feel about that? Playing a game and then you get reinforcements. So in Warcry, your army's broken into three. The dagger, for example, starts already deployed. Round two, the next wave from the shield comes in. Round three, the next wave comes in. It's not exactly how it works, but it's close enough. How do people feel about that? Do we like that? Are we not a fan? Everyone's mixed on opinions. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much all for joining me again on another paint stream. It has absolutely flown by. Hopefully, you've managed to get miniatures done as well. This time, I've managed 13 miniatures, which is one more. We have 3 orc archers. We have 6 orc sneaks. We have 3 orc champions. And we have. I'm not quite convinced that he's finished. It seems like the last model always ends up not quite finished. Necromancers racing the dead in game. If the opposition loses a unit, then they swap sides. That is a good game mechanic to sneak in right at the end there. But yes, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've managed to battle your backlog as well. Next week, it's not this stream. It'll be the podcast over on the Hobby Hoarders podcast. And then the week after that, we'll be back here and so on and so forth. And we'll be swapping between both of those so you don't get bored of seeing my face. But next week as well, we'll finally have a new video on the channel. Now, Baby's resting pattern has got back into it. And it's all about how I turned one of my favorite artworks into a portrait I could hang on the wall. But have a lovely rest of your evening. Have a lovely rest of your week. And I will see you next week. Bye bye.